Dear friends, I tried to uh, give the idea that developing the meditation on loving kindness can be a protection from the hindrances to uh, pervade and fill the mind so completely that uh, the thought of ill will or the thought of greed, the thought of sloth and torpor or drowsiness, restlessness, skeptical doubt, that those um, uh, counterproductive states would not come up uh, if the practice of loving kindness is fully developed. But I think it's also important to consider that sometimes from causes and conditions, the hindrances do come up, and sometimes we don't um, find in a particular set of meditation that we're not so easily able to dispel them. And in those cases, it's very important to have that kind, friendly, and um, forgiving attitudes towards our own practice. Just knowing that it's because of having taken a human birth, having the psychology of a human being, and whatever the other particular causes and conditions might be, that at this time, of this particular day, this hour, that aversion or greed or drowsiness or restlessness or uh, doubt is present. And sometimes those states can seem to become more persistent if we try to control them, if we try to, uh, use too much force, and instead, or rather, the approach is simply to see them and to see those states with the same kind um, interest, uh, like a loving and skillful parent seeing the different behaviors of a child and um, choosing like when to intervene and when to just stand back and watch, uh, trying always to understand. So then it can be that sometimes just standing back and watching those hindrances can be allayed, or sometimes there's something going on and we don't really understand it. And while we are uh, deluded or confused about something that's going on for us, uh, as long as we're in that state of confusion, then the mind sort of can get locked into some kind of a negativity. But then when the moment comes, it can be like a flash of a breakthrough that you say, "Oh, I see with some understanding. Oh, this is what's going on," and then the grip of the hindrance can disappear and evaporate, or sometimes just because of impermanence. Uh, Sometimes one is in some kind of a more persistent difficulty and not yet knowing how to get out of it. But because of impermanence, sometimes you forget to be aversive. Sometimes you just forget to be greedy. Just you can't be greedy all the time, so sometimes you're not greedy. So then, because of impermanence, these states come and go, and because of mindfulness and a full awareness, one can see when these states are coming and going. So these are like some of the other ways of um, dispelling hindrances. Um, there are different specific contemplations that are uh, suggested that are particularly addressed to uh, uh, working with each one of the hindrances in their own special way. But my idea for today is that the practice of loving kindness is very much uh, almost universal, like the medicine that works no matter what the ailment is. It's a medicine that can help. Um, the happiness of loving kindness is the opposite of the happiness of craving for pleasure, because uh, kindness is contented to be with things just as they are and just to be kind, whereas uh, craving or desire uh, often has got a sense of there's a little bit of dissatisfaction in the craving because you want to get something that you don't have, or the craving is like never satisfied with the pleasure of the moment and always wants to reach over to the next pleasure, to the next pleasure. And so there's the restlessness of craving. And then obviously aversion is as opposite to kindness. That's strongly, rejecting and pushing away rather than accepting, because of the way that kindness is so frequently conducive to a sense of uplift and happiness. That kind of practice is um, brings up a helpful, positive energy, not a restless energy, but just the energy of inspiration, and that can be the counter to uh, uh, drowsiness or torpor, because of the way that kindness inclines towards contentment, and that contentment inclines towards equanimity, but it's not a cool equanimity. It can be a kind of a warm equanimity. Uh, Even if you think of somebody who's got a serious disease, suppose they have got um, some kind of infection, or they've got a cancer, or they've got something like that, and then instead of having like a loving kindness towards the body, but hatred towards the bacteria or the virus. So you love everything except you hate the virus, but that's not the kind of practice that you do for healing. Instead, the true loving kindness holds the whole entire body and, loves and wishes for the welfare of the body, and also loves and wishes for the welfare of the virus, and even the virus or the bacteria or the cancer or whatever the disease is also being flooded with kindness. So those things that are every part, and so then in that way, uh, uh, the mind is able to be um, very much moving towards full equanimity. So these are just some thoughts and some ideas about how um, uh, considering that loving kindness is a protective practice, that then it can help us to obtain seclusion from unwholesome dhammas, seclusion from negative states of mind. And then with that seclusion, then we're able to enjoy entering into samadhi, or the stillness of full meditation. I'd like to pause now and just ask for questions. Um, in particular, I don't know to move around.
Question yet, but I do have a comment on that meditation. I just really deeply appreciated that. You started it off with the suggestion of the 4 beautiful aspirations. May I be free from fear, free from aversion. And I noticed the one that really struck with me is may I take care of my own happiness. So that was the one that guided me into the meditation. And it just struck me so strongly differently that I had to investigate that. And I wound up playing with that. What would it be like to be that? What would it be like to be that strong, that independent, that you wouldn't need, or you wouldn't need to hurt anybody, no matter what they said or what they did, or if you were in, the similes came up, if you were in debt, if you were sick, if you were in bondage or a slave, or on a dangerous journey, you were so independent and so safe inside. What would it be like to not need to hurt anybody and not even need to hurt yourself? What would it be like in that question and just exploring that feeling and that deep aspiration and the happiness that just kept increasing in me. And I deeply appreciated what these simple, so-called simple aspirations really mean and the depth of that all. So deeply, deeply appreciating that. So I had a lot of fun with your meditation. I do have one more comment. Another thing that I was reading what you had suggested earlier, and there was a strong, Bhikkhu Analia placed a strong importance on the intention in making most of those moments where we are free of the aversion, so to speak, free of anger, free of ill will, and rejoicing in those states and sort of setting the ground for cultivating the more positive Brahma-vihara states.
Thank you. If others would be pleased to give their report about ways in which this practice is meaningful and important for you, or questions about this practice, or even if you can add any background to what I tried to lay out as a bit of a conceptual framework for how this practice is a benefit. I see Shari. Do you have something to say?
Yeah, I had a question. I oftentimes use this method that maybe not exactly. First of all, let me say I appreciate your sharing your insights and the way in which you approach loving kindness, as infusing ourselves with it as well as taking it out into the world. But I'm wondering, when I oftentimes try to do this, when I'm feeling aversion or fear, I find that it becomes like a cloud sometimes. It's very, it dispels like a lot of the pain, but at the same time, I wonder, could this become a delusion? How do you know when it's becoming a delusion or a sort of spiritual bypass? I was wondering if you might have some insight into that. Thank you.
I'm so glad you mentioned about the spiritual bypass. Uh, I was reading something about the bhava tanha and vibhava tanha, the craving for existence, or what's usually translated as the craving for non-existence. And Richard has recently been putting out a useful, different way of thinking about vibhava tanha. But this is like a longing for a heavenly existence, wanting the happiness of being in heaven is the bhava tanha. And the vibhava tanha, one way of looking at it is if you think of bhava or becoming as something which is changing, like you are something and you want to become something else. So I'm fat, I want to be thin. I'm still in junior high school and I want to be in high school, or I'm in high school and I want to be in college. I'm in college and I want to be out of college. I'm a young employee and I want to become a senior employee or a manager. I'm a manager and I want to retire. I'm retired and if I want to get into a good nursing home. Um, and then, and then, uh, we get tired of this, one gets just so exhausted with this, the merry-go-round of change. And then there's this idea that this vibhava tanha is imagining the state where there's nothing changes anymore. You're going into a state that is no more changes. As a kind of existence. And it seems to me that this longing for heaven or longing for a state in which nothing changes could be something like a spiritual bypass. I know spiritual bypass is like a psychological expression, and it seems to me that maybe another way of looking at it is that if you are, wanting to get into a, like go into another world or like be on a cloud or something like that. Uh, so, in another way, uh, when there's a negative state of mind or a negative thought, there are different ways of dispelling a negative thought. One way of dispelling it is to see clearly for what it is. And then there's, several different ways that are given for dispelling a negative thought. One of the methods for dispelling a negative thought is called substitution. So you substitute kindness instead of aversion. So you knock out the peg of aversion and you fill that peg with kindness. It may be that kind of a substitution is not really the final answer. And if that's the only thing you know how to do, you're not going to get all the way. And I think this is what you're feeling, like the suspicion that you're feeling, that if the root, the deep root of aversion is still present, and all you know how to do is to cover it up with kindness. Actually, it could be that you could destroy the root of aversion that way by just keeping it covered up, and then you'd never give it any nutriment whatsoever. So if you never nourished the hatred or the aversion, and you always kept it like completely, like thoroughly mulched over, so it could never get any light, it could never get any nutriment, and then eventually it would possibly then just atrophy and become weaker and weaker and then disappear. So it could disappear in that way, but uh, uh, mindfulness, awareness, and seeing the process, I think, has to be part of the Buddhist way. So one idea, what comes to me hearing your question, is if you see and understand aversion, like you really understand it, then that could evaporate the aversion. Through understanding, it becomes disappeared. Another way is that you never feed the aversion and you're just watching, like with clear comprehension, you're watching the process. And so, like I used to have a really terrible temper and now I only have a medium amount of a temper. And maybe later on, when I'm on a meditation retreat, my temperamentalness has gotten so weak and so tiny, and I can be really clearly like self-aware because of mindfulness. I know how much the states of mind affected by aversion are still present or still not present. And so I think it's okay. It's not a bypass to use any of the methods, including substitution and including uh, um, clear comprehension or insight, understanding, Vipassana type methods. All of them are good methods and all of them should be done with mindfulness. So you know what you're doing, even though you've substituted kindness for hatred, you're still aware of what's going on. And then it's not a bypass. I want to just take a moment to acknowledge that Ganesh and Bhikkhu is here with us. Venerable Dhamma Ruchika is here with us. And the Bhikkhunis at the Aranya Bodhi Hermitage are with us. So we have that Sangha present with us in the room. And my respect and appreciation for those monastics who are with us this evening. I'm going to call on Richard.
Thank you, Aya. I stumbled on a technique recently that's sort of, in my mind, connected with, meditation, which is when I'm sitting with my eyes closed, I imagine the Buddha is sitting nearby, maybe 10 or 15 feet away, sort of elevated a little bit, and I'm off to the side, and I'm looking at the Buddha with loving kindness for how wonderful he is. But he's also radiating infinite loving kindness, to the universe, right? In which I'm sitting, so I'm getting that loving kindness back, and it becomes like a feedback loop where it gets more and more powerful. I don't know if you quite understand what I mean, but as I'm radiating that way, but his is also coming into me, so it's like getting stronger and stronger and stronger like that. And it's somewhat of a what do we call that? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting old, so I forget words. But when you're visualization, it's sort of a visualization technique, because I am seeing the Buddha sitting there, smiling and radiating loving kindness, and I'm absorbing that at the same time and radiating it back, sort of like that. So, anyways, it seems to work and be a lot of fun, actually. So, I don't know if that's good to describe it. Anyways, the other thing I wanted to mention was you were saying that metta can be a protection from the 5 hindrances, but also if you completely enter into metta, then that's the first jhana, and that means that you've gone beyond the 5 hindrances, at least temporarily, for some period of time. So it has that same idea, you know what I mean? You have been able to get away and suppress and put behind you the 5 hindrances, like that. if you understand it in that way in terms of the first jhana. Anyways, thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I do like the image of the Buddha um, being like within the aura of the Buddha's compassion. So this practice of loving kindness is clearly clearly beneficial to whatever extent we're able to develop it. There is a very important idea in Buddhism, just putting it in very generalizing, and that is this idea of tranquility. In the jhana formula, it's something that's more associated with the second jhana. Uh, um, more associated with the third jhana. This extreme level where there's a physical tranquility and a mental tranquility combined, which is um, associated with becoming increasingly more equanimous. All of the great religious or spiritual traditions in the entire world do have some idea of tranquil meditation or a tranquil mind as being a very high spiritual value. It's a very, the state of a person who's realized accomplishment, spiritual accomplishment, however it's thought of in different traditions, has this idea of something which is this combination of calmness and happiness, and in a certain way, a kind of not being subjected to the reactivity or disturbances. So there's a way in which there's a way to be free from any disturbance is very that sort of merges over into an aspect of the powerful wisdom factor of one who has seen non-self is not able to be disturbed by anything that they may encounter because of their insight. So the tranquility in meditation is a kind of a bridge over to that state. So there's a way in which just if a person has a character, if you have the tendency or the character to have, say, afflictive emotions as something that creates a disturbance for you, and then through meditation, one can find that it's completely not necessary to be disturbed by afflictive emotions. Afflictive emotions are completely optional. That there is a different world, a different place, a different space where those reactions don't have a part. This is like, being, I guess, when a tadpole becomes a frog and gets out of the pond and sees that there's air, and so they know that the world that was underwater was, the world which is subject to emotional reactions, and then getting above the water, getting into the air, saying, "Wow, there's a completely different world," and that is this tranquil world. So then, if we have access to tranquil meditation, it is supportive and conducive of uh, uh, a lot of inner healing at many different levels. So it's definitely a good thing all by itself. But it also is creating a space or an opportunity for wisdom to arise. Why is that? Well, part of that emotional reactivity that we had before, not only did we experience those afflictive reactions, but we also had a certain belief system that we believe that the self is in danger, or that that so and so always does that to me, or some other kind of a belief in ideology, which is like supporting and nourishing and feeding the afflictions. So deluded beliefs and afflictive reactions are feeding each other in a synergy. And so then when you are able to come out of temporarily through meditation, you're able to come out of that afflictive state and to discover this, it's not necessary. So not only is it possible to give up that emotional reactivity, but it's also possible to let go of the deluded belief systems that we had. And then when we become able to see that, this whole structure of wrong beliefs is also completely optional, then it creates the opportunities and the possibilities for the transforming insight to be able to arise, to have a chance to see things as they really are. And so then it's in that way that uh, um, I'm taking the idea, part of the theme for this meditation, for this Vasa, practicing for peace, is to start with ideas about ethics and communal harmony and the social aspect. And then their intermediate stage is tranquil meditation. And then the ultimate stage of the real practice of peace is the transformation of our understanding by seeing things in a completely different way, such that it's one becomes the sage at peace, the one who is not disturbed because of not clinging to any notions of the self. So that's putting it into context. But I don't think it might be possible for somebody, but I don't think it would be possible for a normal person or an average person to be able to go from being an ordinary, immature, psychologically immature person with a lot of reactions, and then just purely through intellect and an intellectual kind of understanding to be able to transcend all that reactivity, and just merely through wisdom to be able to get beyond being a subject to affliction. I think that the feeling aspect of tranquil meditation is really necessary. It's like with the body-mind connection, that meditation does so much to provide even like in the materialistic way, that the body is able to be healed through meditation, and the material brain is able to be healed through meditation, and the material nervous system are all able to be calmed and tranquilized and healed and come into a different kind of wellness through this practice of meditation. And that creates different opportunities for wisdom. It's just my idea. Well, this room seems to be very peaceful, and if there's not more questions or comments, then I think we can come to a close and give respect to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Araham Samma Sambuddha Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhamman Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sangham Namami.
Thank you, Aya, for your teaching. We bow to our teacher.
Sampai Buddha Bhalavata.
Good night, Aya.
Okay, good night. Thank you everyone for your practice and your patient listening.
Thank you, Aya.